Mr. Chu. Welcome. You're here for AB 729.
Yes.
You may proceed when ready.
All right. Thank you very much, Madam Chairs and members. I'm here to present AB 729, which is really a follow-up bill of my bill from last year to improve carpet recycling in California. AB 729 allowed for a bridge or contingency plan put forth by the California Department of Resources, Recycling and Recovery, CalRecycle for short, to avoid disrupting California's carpet recycling effort and protect fees paid by consumers in the case that the state carpet stewardship program run by the manufacturers is disapproved or revoked. In addition, AB 729 requires the carpet stewardship organization to deposit funds into a trust or escrow account to retain funding to run the program in case the proposed plan is disapproved. So to provide a little background information, California passed AB 1158 in 2017 that sets tangible goals for the stewardship program, including a 24% recycling target by 2020 and giving CalRecycle the authority to set targets moving forward, and also the authority to approve or disapprove the plan from the carpet recovery effort, CARE. And right now, the CalRecycle disapproved the plan for the current year, and the program was ceased. Disrupting California carpet recycling program without a way for the department to retrieve consumer fees and provide grants to continue the program. So AB 729 addressed this issue by allowing a bridge plan to continue the program by utilizing consumers' fee if its proposed plan is disapproved. The bill is still a work in progress, and we will continue to work with the stakeholder to address issues that they have brought to our attention. With that, I would say we'll have a National Stewardship Action Council, and supported by the California Product Stewardship Council, and we have Honorable, I'm sorry, who was that, Council? Oh, to testify today, which we have Jason Schmidt-Lizzer on behalf of National Stewardship Action Council, and Greg Campbell on behalf of the interface.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Jason Schmelzer here on behalf of the California Product Stewardship Council and the National Stewardship Action Council. Strong support of the bill. EPR programs, we've talked about these for a few years. This is one of the original early EPR programs that was passed, and we've had some struggles getting it implemented and getting compliance from the manufacturers. This bill notably does two things, and I want to speak to what the opposition put in their letters really quickly. One, on the bridge plan, it essentially creates a mechanism in law which does not exist right now for if a stewardship plan were to be disapproved or go defunct, they would be in possession of California fee payer money. What this bill does is it says, hey, you need to have an escrow account that makes sure that money flows to the purposes for which it was intended and is safe. Now, we've talked to the opposition, we've talked to CalRecycle. A lot of this flows from technical amendments that we received from them. We understand that there could be some hiccups as far as the 1 year, the amount of money that goes in, the period of time over which that would go in, and speaking for my clients, we're more than happy to work out those details. This isn't about a gotcha or anything like that. It's about protecting California fee payer money. Secondarily, the language adjusts the penalties slightly. It gets rid of a $1,000 level penalty and creates a $10,000 level penalty, and also gets rid of the language about willful, negligent, et cetera. I do want to make a quick note. They say, I believe in their letter, that there's no other EPR program with this penalty level. SB 212, last year, Jackson, Ting, and Gray on pharmaceuticals has a $10,000 base penalty level and a $50,000 penalty level for willful, negligent, et cetera. That $50,000 penalty level is not here. This amendment is consistent with the last EPR bill that was done in the state legislature, and I just want to go ahead and point that out. The reason that we're here, very quickly, we've got multiple years of noncompliance by the manufacturers. We understand that they're trying, that there are challenges, but the program needs to be whipped into shape to make sure that the California fee payer money that we are collecting is being used for its intended purpose. And with that, I just strongly urge your support for the bill. Thank you.
Madam Chair and members, Greg Campbell, and I'm here today representing Interface. Interface is a worldwide commercial flooring company and also one of the largest carpet recyclers in the United States. Interface has also been an industry member of the Stewardship Council, CARE, since its inception in 2010. We remain committed to encouraging best practices in recycling across our industry, and like others, including CalRecycle numerous times, we have concerns that the current direction of CARE is not resulting in continuous, meaningful improvement towards our carpet recycling goals in California, and because of that, we think that AB 729 is necessary. We thank the author for bringing it forward and ask for an aye vote today. Thank you.
Thank you. Others wishing to speak in support of the bill, please come to the microphone.
Good evening, Nick Lapis, Californians Against Waste, in strong support, and commend the author for his work on this over the years. Thank you.
Kayla Robinson on behalf of Rethink Waste in support.
Priscilla Kidos here on behalf of Solid Waste Association of North America in support.
Laura Ferrante on behalf of the California Refuse Recycling Council in support.
Anyone wishing to testify in opposition?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Randy Pollock on behalf of the Carpet and Rug Institute. Our member companies are part of the stewardship plan called CARE. And I'd just like to make one correction. There is currently an approved plan that CARE is operating under, and that was approved earlier this year by CalRecycle. There are certain things that they're trying to meet by September 1st, and we have a recycling rate of 24%, or CARE does, by the end of this year. I agree with the Assemblyman that we need to have a continuation or a bridge plan. Our concern, which was raised by Jason, is putting $30 million into an escrow or a trust account. And our question is, where does that money come from? The money that is currently in the CARE account is going to be spent down, whatever surplus we have. It is part of the plan that is going to be used for subsidies. It's going to be used for grants. In discussions with CalRecycle, they wanted to have a 2-month reserve, and that's what we'll be spending down the surplus that we have right now. So we don't believe that an additional fee on consumers to create another $30 million account is warranted. The assessment on carpet has been increased beginning back in 2011 from 5 cents, and it was just increased, now it's at 35 cents, the latest increase on January 1st of this year. The second part of the bill that we're very concerned about is about the fines. It used to be that if you were fined up to $10,000, there had to be a standard of conduct that had to be shown. You had to be shown that you were negligent, there was intentional misconduct, or knowing misconduct. We believe that is very important, because when you operate as a stewardship plan, you don't have any direct control. You're working with processors, you're working with recyclers, you're working with collectors and manufacturers. You're working with them and you're getting agreements with them saying that they're promising to do certain things. But what happens is, what we've seen is we may have an equipment failure. Some processor may have an equipment failure. We had one company this year that said they would be able to take 30 million pounds of carpet, and then the company was sold. And so that facility is no longer recycling carpet. That's something beyond our control. So we believe it's very important to have a standard of conduct where an administrative law judge can look to see, were you negligent in your duties? Were you intentionally wrongful in the way you conducted your business? So we believe that it's very arbitrary. We think that that should be reinstated. And according to Mr. Smeltzer, that, you know, in the last stewardship plan, that they have that standard, they removed that standard. But I would just say that's the pharmaceutical industry. I think it's probably 100 times bigger than the carpet industry. And so the numbers that are in that bill, I don't think could be applicable to here. Finally, I'd like to conclude is that over the last, during the amount of this programs that we have given away $8 million in grants, $45 million in subsidies. And while the carpet rate continues to increase, we have seen the difficulties of like Cal Recycle in trying to meet the overall recycling rate of the state, which is supposed to be 75% at the end of this year. They started at 52% several years ago. They're at 42% right now and declining. So that shows you that creating a recycling infrastructure in California is very difficult. But we believe California will meet its goals on carpet, and we continue to think we'll continue to thrive because we are the first in the nation. Thank you very much.
Mike Robeson here on behalf of Mohawk Industries, and we're opposed to the bill. I reiterate some of the things that Mr. Pollack said, and just in the unprecedented nature of the massive fines for in taking out the knowing and negligent standard. One thing I want to point out, and I guess I really want to just say this, is it's something that the author had indicated as he was closing, and that this was a work in progress, and I really want to focus on that. We're opposed to the work in progress. We would prefer that this committee just vote on a bill and say, hey, this is the bill, and this is the bill we're voting on, and as amended or as proposed to be amended, for that matter. We would really strenuously oppose a work in progress, because 2 years ago, the author and the sponsors rolled through here with AB 1158, and it was really a nothing bill, and we weren't opposed to it. It went over to the Senate, and the Senate substantively changed it, came back to this side in August, and this side had no choice but to just have a hearing on it and just let us vent and then put it on the floor. So we think the Assembly Natural Resources Committee kind of has the sponsor and the author have an obligation to the committee to actually vote on a bill here and actually allow the committee consultants and the folks on this committee to actually craft that bill rather than let the Senate do it for you. So we'd ask you to decide. There's nothing in the author's statement, the author's fact sheet that indicates a need for a $10,000 no negligence fine. There's nothing, the author's fact sheet talks about the need for a bridge plan. We're fine with the bridge plan, but we're not fine with having a year's worth of money tied up in it. That's not going to help the recycling program. And finally, if we want carpet recycling in the state of California to work, then let the stewardship organization do their job rather than keep coming back here with legislation. If this was needed, if any of this or anything that is planned by the sponsor is needed, it could have been dealt with in AB 1158. They wrote that bill, and it's only been implemented for a year. It was passed 2 years ago, took a year to implement it, and now we're back here with another bill, just making it harder for the organization to do the job that you guys tasked them to do. So we'd ask you for your no vote, or at least vote on a bill that you know that you're going to see again, that will be the same bill.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak in opposition to the bill? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the committee. Ms. Garcia.
Thank you. I know Mr. Chu has been working on this for more than just this year. And so I do appreciate that. And some of the concerns that have been brought up with this program are helping to guide some of the decisions we're making on our mattress program as well. But I do have some questions and some concerns as you're working on this. And the first one is tied to the 1 year's worth of revenue that's being set aside and kind of the rationale or the need for that. And it's part of what the opposition spoke to. Can you address that?
Well, this is the fee that we collected from the consumer. So we asked them to deposit into an escrow account. You have anything to add to that?
Sorry. Yeah, listen, the language that we got, the 1 year, was technical assistance from CalRecycle. I think the idea is we wanted to talk to the opposition and say, well, what makes sense? Part of what you have to remember in an EPR process is if they disapprove CARE's plan and they go through the process of doing another plan, they're going to have timelines that are in the bill. There's going to be 90 days to submit a plan. There's going to be a period to review the plan. So it could take several months to a year to get the next plan in place and moving. So I think I can't speak for CalRecycle, I'm obviously not them. But I think the idea was to make sure that there was enough money to continue the activities of the recycling program so that the recyclers didn't go defunct while the state was kind of figuring out its business with the program.
So in the little bit of the timeline you gave me, and I will concede that you didn't give me the full description, it was a lot less than a year that you just described to me, though. that process and the appeals.
Yep.
And so maybe can I hear from you guys about the 1 year?
Thank you, Assemblywoman Garcia. With the plan, even if a plan is not in place, the money will still keep flowing into California. You cannot sell carpet in California unless you pay an assessment. So that money will continue to flow into California. It's not going to stop. So there will be a fund set up where the money continues to come in to operate the program. That's the way we operate today. We're operating as the money comes in, we're spending it on the program. So that's not going to change.
So is there a shorter timeline that you would be amiable to, or?
We're saying the money's already going to be there. Why do we need a trust or an escrow
So
account?
no timeline.
Yeah.
Well, I think that what Randy's trying to say is if we have to build into something in writing that says, you know, there will be a transition mechanism to go from one stewardship organization to another, we're fine with that. The amount of money that's going to be sitting there is going to be would be the same no matter what. Whether if CARE still exists after September 2nd, nothing changes. CARE just goes forward. They won't necessarily need a bigger reserve, and any new stewardship organization isn't going to necessarily need a bigger reserve. And just as a matter of equity, you know, CARE started their stewardship organization from scratch. Nobody pre-funded them and said, "Hey, get rolling." I mean, they started from scratch, and you know, and it's hard, and they're working on you know, finding end markets.
My understanding, you know, this money, you're right, it keep coming, and we just wanted to put it into a trust account. Jason, you have?
But I think the problem from just a bureaucratic perspective is that there's nothing in the current law that says what happens to the money that's in the possession of a stewardship organization if it is no longer approved by CalRecycle. There's nothing that says what happens to the California fee money if it's in an account in Georgia. It doesn't speak to it.
Okay. Which is my understanding that that's part of the intent of the bill, to figure out what happens there.
Correct.
And
We're good with that part.
yeah, and so, I mean, in that, there seems to be some common ground, at least on that part of the problem we're trying to solve. The dollar amount, whether it's a whole year's worth, a percentage, something like that, is where we have a disconnect. And I would hope you guys find a common ground on that, where you might not be happy, but it's something maybe a little lesser than what they're asking for.
Okay.
And so I know right now you kind of told me no, but I hope you move closer in that direction, and there's a space, because there has been so much work and there is improvements that need to happen here along the way. And then my second question, and my final question, is about the intentional negligence, and we are removing that in this bill. And for the sponsor and the author, explain to me why that's important to help us do a better job in recycling.
My understanding that the negligence is very difficult to prove. So that's why we will have to consider and pretty much give the law judges more discretion on how much the fine they wanted to impose on a daily basis.
So in the existing bill, there is exactly what they're complaining about now, just at a lower level. There is an existing $1,000 penalty that does not require, and I got to put my eyes back on, intentional, knowing, or negligent. So the standard is in current law right now, and it is in current law in SB 212 for pharmaceuticals at $10,000. I think the reason that we're here, and I'm not here to beat anybody up, but we've been in this endless enforcement loop with the industry. 2013, 2014, 2015, the 2016 plan, where the plan that's in the place right now is on a contingent basis. In September, CalRecycle is going to try to decide whether or not they've done their job as described in the plan. If they don't, we're going to be in this position where we're going to be either disapproving a plan or repealing a plan. And to our earlier point, I think, I obviously can't speak on behalf of the department, I think there's a desire for more teeth in the enforcement mechanism that's in current law. Because I think we could all admit that the enforcement mechanism that's in current law right now is not working, because we've been in this endless enforcement loop for years and years and years.
So if I'm interpreting correctly, you're telling me that by removing this or changing this language, we're going to have better enforcement. But it's still going to be the legal process nonetheless, and it's still.
Right.
Yeah, correct. I mean, that's my interpretation of the technical assistance that we received, yes.
I would just add, I mean, what you're doing here, that if you miss one deadline, you could be fined $10,000 a day. You can miss an annual report, be fined $10,000 a day. The way it's set up right now, and as Jason indicated, yes, in our early years, we have been taken to an administrative law judge with a fine. He's looked at all the information, and he determined that we were not negligent, because he realized that we have to contract with third parties in order to do certain things. So in his rulings, he has found that we were not negligent or there was no intentional misconduct, which we believe is very important. If you're going to, we have lots of programs in California, Cal Recycle, are we all going to hold each other to that same standard? Because it's very hard to do that when you're relying upon third parties.
So I'm going to vote for the bill today. I do have some hesitations about removing intentional negligence. There's times that I say, well, we should know better, we should be doing it better, but we still screw up. I just got a letter about something I turned in 2 days later, and I have to deal with that. And my first gut reaction was like, I should know better, but then they were like, you actually were waiting for a legal opinion, and that's why it took you 2 extra days. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, that sounds a little better, but I'm still getting dinged, right? And so it just reminds me of why intentional negligence is something that I do think is something that's important. I'm going to vote for the bill today. I don't know if, as this bill moves with that piece, I'm going to be okay with it down the road. Thank you.
And just to be clear, the fine is up to $10,000 a day, but that doesn't mean it has to be $10,000. So it does give flexibility to look at each particular instance and to say, is it something that's egregious or not? Is it something that really warrants that kind of fine? Or was there something that happened that was out of their control? So there can certainly be a lot of discretion that's used.
That's right.
Other comments from committee or questions? I'll be supporting the bill today. Oh, I'm sorry, did you want to close?
No, thank you very much. I ask for your I vote.
Thank you. I'll be supporting the bill. This is clearly, a big problem with Cal Recycle, with the industry. I'm glad that it sounds like still talking, and hopefully you'll continue to do that. And I commend the author for, taking on this very difficult but very important issue. So I'm happy to support the bill today. Did we have a motion yet? Okay. We don't. Is anybody interested in? Okay, we have a motion. And a second? Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Item 10, AB 729 by Assemblymember Chu. The motion is due pass and referred to Appropriations Committee. Members Friedman?
Aye.
Friedman, aye. Flora?
Not voting.
Flora not voting. Chow? Eggman? Eggman not voting. Garcia? Aye. Garcia, aye. Limon? Aye. Limon, aye. Mathis? No. Mathis, no. McCarty? Aye. McCarty, aye. Melendez? Melendez, no. Maratsuchi? Stone? Aye. Stone, aye. 5-2.
5-2, we'll leave the roll open for absent
All right.
members. Thank you.
Thank you.